This was an interesting question that I was recently asked after one of our tabletop games on Thursday. Dungeons and Dragons dice cheating. Players cheating with dice in D&D. Look, there's a lot of dice being rolled, a lot of D6s, a lot of D20s, cheating with the dice. And my first thought, of course, was, knowing how amazing the community is, my first thought was, well, why would you even cheat with the dice? And there's kind of two ways, soft cheating and hard cheating. Soft cheating is a little bit more difficult given the unique nature of D&D dice as opposed to wargaming systems that are D6s. The hard cheating is much easier, but it's easy to detect. And we're going to kind of explore both. But my first thought is, why would anyone want to do that? So much of the game, my hero Maximus, are you not entertained, right? So much of the game is the dice rolls and seeing what happens and being like, look, guys, I've got this, okay? Before I even swing the sword, because I'm so amazing, I've got, plus 12 to the D20. I've got advantage on both. I'm rolling 2D20s. I've got assistance on that because the cleric is assisting me. Like, there's no way I'm going to miss this. You roll both D20s and it's like, a 1 and a 5. And time pauses for a moment where you're like, what the heck just happened? I'd rather have the good moments like that, roll legendary 19s and 20s, roll for crit, confirm crit, double crit because of my feat. I want that. I don't want to roll like 1s and 2s. But that moment of like, wow, I don't know what's going to happen. As a player, as a dungeon master, that's what I love. And I really can't think of any instances, just in kind of my local D&D community. And as I've traveled out and had the good fortune to run encounters and run things, I really can't think of any aspects of cheating. Do they exist? They could. They might. I don't know. I can't even say play competitive D&D. But let's look at some of the ways, just for the sake of completing this video, being involved in the wargaming community. It is also very, very rare. I love playing Warhammer 40,000. I love Battletech. I love X-Wing miniatures. I have seen very rarely dice manipulation and dice cheating. So pulling a little bit of that in. The first is soft cheating, and this is kind of my terminology. A little bit of sleight of hand. Harder to do. Easier to do with a D6. I can roll a D6 in such a way that it will roll a 4, 5, or 6. Now in D&D, you roll a lot of D6s because you're blasting with lightning bolt or fireball. You're not doing a one-off. It's a little bit harder to do. Could you sleight of hand a D20? I think if you had that skill, you'd be utilizing it for something else. But the soft cheating from that perspective is more challenging to do. What you could do, and in no way am I suggesting this, but I think just to be aware of it and kind of to push this out there and ask you listening to my channel, have you seen it? I mean, I've never seen this in D&D, but if I'm rolling a number of D6s, I'm doing the rogue, I've got my sneak attack bonus, I've got this bonus, I've got this bonus, or I'm rolling a bunch of D6s. If I do 46 versus damage, 46 plus 2d4 for sneak attack, plus an extra D6 for Sonic or Frost or whatever flame. I pull in a colored die for that just to distinguish it differently in case there's resistances. What if I slip in another D6 and I roll it? Would someone catch it? So from that perspective, it's often easier to slip something in. But again, that's kind of hard compared to a war game. Something like Warhammer 40,000 where I'm literally rolling, my Cornate Berserkers charging for Cornate Glory. I'm making an attack. I'm literally rolling 40 dice. I'm rolling like buckets of dice. If someone slipped in 2 or 3, that might be a little bit easier. And over the course of a game, that happens. So I think soft cheating is going to be hard to do. Very hard to do in D&D. Okay, hard cheating, loaded dice. I have yet to see a good pair of loaded dice. I'm sure there's loaded D&D dice out there. Again, why would you want to use that and take away from the fun? But from the perspective of a DM, I think it's going to be discovered very, very fast. And given that you're going to consistently roll D20s and other things without swapping them out, again, you're going to roll 16 or higher, or 18s and 19s or 20s every single time, or as needed, I'm going to see you switch out a D20. I think it would go noticed. Now, there are certain, we'll push it out because, look, we're talking about it. There are certain sets of dice that are poorly made. You're certainly not going to nuke your custom dice. You're not going to mess around with your metal dice. But ChessX is a great example. I mean, I think they make good entry-level quality dice, but there are examples where people would take D6s and microwave them for a little bit to weight it with the 6 up. The idea is you're heating up the core. It's shifting a little bit of the mass down to that 1, so the 6 is up. So out of 30 dice, if I roll them and 5 or 6 are cooked to a 6, there's an increased chance that it'll roll a 6. Cooking the dice has to be the right type of dice. I don't recommend that. A lot of crazy things could happen, but I've seen some cooked dice, and it's only really obvious because they're all the same, and the same dice are kind of rolling 6s. Now, the challenge with that, of course, is you've just shifted the weight internally a little bit. There's nothing to detect. The quality control is not that good on mass-produced dice. So you kind of shrug your shoulders. But those of us that know playing competitive wargaming and you know what to look for, you see it. Because it's not, say, sleight of hand. Because it's not manipulation, kind of like stage magic or that perspective. Close-up, literally close-up magic in terms of manipulation. It is easier to detect. So you don't really see much of that from that perspective. But circling back around, dice cheating in D&D. I'm really thinking. I really can't think of an instance. I've seen people make some mistakes. That's different. You know, you think your longsword does a D8, you roll a D10. I'm not going to make you roll that over just once we've added up the damage and can't segment it. You know, little mistakes like that is not cheating. That's just we're in the game and stuff happens. Or you're used to rolling a D6 and you swapped out your weapon and you're still rolling a D6. That might happen. That's no big deal. But approaching a game from the perspective of cheating, your thoughts, your experiences, and I'd love in the comments if anyone has seen this, because this is something that I don't really think exists in the D&D community, and I really can't see, given the format and presentation of D&D, that it would exist.